All right. So you've heard 4 reasons that Ohio State will beat Texas. Now we're going to look at 4 reasons why Texas will beat Ohio State. So here we go. I think the first one to me is Arch Manning is the real deal, and he has another year of experience above and beyond Julian Sayin, just the pure quarterback versus quarterback matchup. These are both 5-star recruits from the high school days, two of the most sought after quarterback prospects to come into college football in the last few years. But Julian Sayin was 5 for 12 last year. That's the extent of his experience. He's only been on campus for a little over a year and a half. Arch Manning has been on campus for longer. He had a couple starts last year, and those reps. He also, maybe most importantly, was the number one guy all year. He was not splitting reps all spring. He was not splitting reps all fall camp in the way that Julian Sayin was for most of the year. If Texas is going to win this game, I think Arch Manning has got to be the Arch Manning that has been promised for a couple of years.
Yeah, we need to see the Arch Manning that was going to come in and Beano Cook style win 3 Heismans or whatever, and so on and so forth. And the jury is still out. And that's not an anti-Arch statement. He was backing up Quinn Ewers last year. So, we did get to see Arch when Ewers was a little banged up, and he got to come in. We got to see him in some situational situations, I guess that's true. But you go forward with that. I mean, he does have the deeper depth of experience, and by all accounts, Arch is a really good player. I mean, it's in vogue right now to like diminish what he's done because he's going against Ohio State, and I'm sure that's what our listeners want to hear is me saying, "Well, he ain't all that great." But I'm not doing anybody any favors by saying that. He's very talented, and the experience edge at quarterback is going to go to Texas. And if Arch balls out, it's game on. It's gonna be a big deal.
Yeah, it is. That is going to be a big deal, and I think this is also worth having the conversation up front. This is not one of our four reasons Texas will beat Ohio State. This is just sort of more general life advice. These are both 5-star, very talented quarterbacks playing under very, very talented quarterback developing head coaches. They're both probably going to be pretty darn good at some point. So one making his first career start against a top 5 team, one making his first career start against any team. I wouldn't go too far with the hot takes in the wake of this that whoever loses this game is a bust and is never going to do anything. That is going to be a great way to get yourself freezing cold take, probably in a matter of 6 to 10 weeks or so, as these guys continue to build up their experience and be able to capitalize more on their physical talents and their all the things that made them 5 stars. So these two, this might not even be the last time these two teams play each other this year. And as we saw last year in the case of Ohio State and Oregon, there were a lot of hashtag takes from Oregon fans that did not age real well right about the time the sun was setting in Pasadena, California on New Year's Day. So how the first game goes does not necessarily have a whole lot of bearing on how the second game goes in situations like that. So maybe keep your powder dry whether your team is the one that wins or loses on Saturday. So, all right, so there's one reason that Texas will beat Ohio State on Saturday. Here's another one. When you look at the Ohio State defense that beat Texas, and I mean, really the defense beat Texas because it got down. Texas got about as close as you could to tying the game, and then Jack Sawyer made a play that you may remember. But, the rest of the Ohio State defense, there was a play before that Lathan Ransom made that really kind of, they really kind of blew up a play and pushed Texas back out of the 1st and goal at the 1 and set up that big Jack Sawyer play. But I'm saying a lot of names of guys who are not on Ohio State's defense anymore. Ohio State returns just 3 starters. They also have a new defensive coordinator. And Kevin, I think it's reasonable to wonder, with all the turnover at on the field and with the turnover with the guy with the headset up in the box, that's something that can take a little while to work out some kinks and sort of find your flow and find your strength during the course of the season. And they don't have the luxury of ramping up.
I mean, fortunately, they're not going from running like a dime base to going to an odd man front, like a 3-4. I mean, there's going to be a decent amount of carryover in terms of what the package is, but still getting plays in, just maybe, some tendencies. And do you really have tendencies week one? I mean, I guess in theory you do. I mean, based on what you've been calling in practice, but it's still a new operation. I mean, it's a new operation with a new coordinator, and things happen. Things happen. So Ohio State is going to have to be that much more on it. They're going to have good communication. As it goes down to the green dot, they're going to have to be able to get the play, completely, disseminated to everybody on the field. It's another fail point. It's another point that could fail. Now, just because there are multiple fail points in the chain doesn't mean you're going to have that many breaks, but it's just somewhere else that something can get loose and steam can come out of, and that could create issues. So, yeah, I think that's a very, very realistic, statement that is a concern.
Another thing that has been a concern going back to even spring ball for Ohio State is the interior of the defensive line, and particularly the depth of the interior of the defensive line. Feels like they're feeling pretty good about Caden McDonald, and they're feeling pretty good about Edric Houston, who may or may not be 100% on Saturday. That's a little bit of a concern. But then the depth at the interior of the defensive line position, that's a spot where if Texas can take advantage of that, if Edric Houston is not able to play more than 25, 30 snaps, for example, and you're playing depth guys that you're not quite as comfortable with, and Texas is able to run the ball, well, that opens up a whole bunch of stuff. If they can run the ball between the tackles, that opens up all sorts of stuff for Arch Manning in the passing game, and that really could be something that really swings the game to Texas.
Yeah, I mean, and even look at Caden McDonald. He's somebody, I mean, I don't know off the top of my head what the most, snaps that he's had in a game, but I'm going to assume that it's not a gigantic number. I mean, there were a lot of times that he was out there a significant amount of time, Tyleik Williams, what have you. But it is a concern. Now, one thing I will say is, and this is coming out on my Friday by the numbers piece, that Texas is averaging just 99 yards a game against Ohio State. Now, what does the 2005 game have to do with the 2025 game? Nothing. By the numbers is looking at trends, things of that nature. I mean, it's not always going to be as black and white, but there is the concern of the depth. I'm still a little surprised that we are talking as much about Will Smith Jr. right now as we are, because I thought that it might take him a couple of years before he would be a rotational piece. And if you're looking at a situation of where Edric Houston isn't able to go as much as you would like or whatever, suddenly we're talking a lot more about Will Smith Jr. Suddenly we're talking a lot more about Jason Moore. We're talking about guys like that. And for feeling pretty good about Ohio State's edge, CJ Hicks isn't playing tackle. Bo Atkinson isn't playing tackle. There are a lot of guys that aren't playing tackle, and you kind of need those guys.
Yeah, you definitely need those guys. And you mentioned not knowing the exact snap counts. I looked them up while you're talking. Caden McDonald played 214 snaps last season, Edric Houston 141. That sounds like a lot until I tell you that Ty Hamilton played 668 and Tyleik Williams played 583. Will Smith, who was potentially that next man up at one of those interior spots, 35 snaps all last year. So could potentially play as many in a game as he did all season. That is not out of the realm of possibility. So the interior of the defensive line, definitely a little bit of a question mark on the Ohio State side of things. One thing that's not a question on the Texas side of things is a couple of those guys who might be coming off the edge at a tremendous amount of speed directly at Julian Sayin. Collin Simmons and Anthony Hill, I mean, they have some Texas. It's easy for Ohio State people to go, yeah, they're not going to lose. They've got Jeremiah Smith and they've got Caleb Downs. Texas has some dudes as well on the defense. And while it's easy to look and go, yeah, Ohio State should be okay in terms of the offensive line, you don't know until you see it on the field. And Texas has guys who are really going to put that Ohio State offensive line to the test.
Yeah, when you have Anthony Hill Jr. at linebacker, when you've got Collin Simmons, kind of as your edge guy, I mean, they are, very concerning. I mean, they're both, super talented players. I mean, all SEC caliber, all America caliber type of players. And yes, Ohio State practices super hard, so practice is tougher than games. Well, I'm here to tell you that this Texas game is probably going to be tougher than practice. It just is, because in practice you're not generally taking people to the ground, so there's not the injury factor. You're not you know kind of what the other side of the ball is doing, because you're a team. Now you're going against somebody who's going to do kind of whatever they need to do to win. So yeah, I just think that creates all sorts of issues.
Well, we will find out on Saturday which team has more issues. You have now heard the 4 reasons Ohio State will win and the 4 reasons that Texas will win. We will all find out together on Saturday afternoon which one actually does win. But again, might not be the last time these two teams play this season. And if it's half as good as the last time these two teams played down in Texas, sign me up. That was a heck of a football game. And we'll see if this one can live up to it. We will be there. We have all sorts of coverage coming for you this week at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Kevin has his signature Tale of the Tape column, taking a deep dive on all the individual matchups and all that kind of stuff. That is a member-exclusive feature on the Huddle Board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus. So if you've been thinking, hey, do I want to sign up for membership? You should do it. This would be a great time to do it. $5 for your first month at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Sign up to become a member today. Get access to our full team of insiders, X's and O's coverage, recruiting coverage. Mark has a whole list of all the visitors coming this weekend on our board, and it is long, it is extensive, and there are some big names on that list. So recruiting coverage, team coverage, X's and O's coverage, you can find it all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.